Coming up on today's episode, Tesla's got a new Plaid Model S running around the track over there in Germany, new spacesuits for NASA for the moon and otherwise, and a new carbon capture technique to remove carbon from our atmosphere. Let's get ludicrous. Hey there and welcome to Our Ludicrous Future. This is the podcast where we talk about all the cool future stuff that's happening today that's going to make tomorrow totally ludicrous. I'm Joe Scott from the Answers with Joe YouTube channel, and with me is Mr. Tim Dodd.
Hey Joe, it's me, Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut from the internets. And unfortunately, we have no Ben, but...
It's fortunate.
It's fortunate.
For fortunate reasons.
Because they had a baby.
They had a baby.
They made a little baby and it's out in the world now, pooping its pants.
So its name was Theo Maverick Sullins.
Of course,
right?
It has Maverick in there.
Maverick, yeah.
Jeez, for those who don't know.
I told him that he's taken his love for Top Gun too far, and he responded with, "There's no such thing."
For those who don't know, Ben lives in San Diego, where it's the home of Top Gun, quite literally. And therefore, it's the home of Ben's everything.
Right. So when we were there, that's when he found out that I'd never actually watched Top Gun. I've never actually watched the movie all the way through. I've seen scenes and I know this, whatever, but I've never actually sat down and watched it. And I don't feel like I'm missing anything from that, but he feels like I am. And gave me all kinds of hell about it. But
yeah. Well, you're a terrible person.
Well, sometimes. Yeah.
That's all it is.
I love how that's the thing that makes me a terrible person.
Yeah, it is. That's the one.
My lack of Top Gun viewage.
Yeah, 0. It's bad. I probably watched it 20 times when I was a little kid. I had it on repeat. I knew how to put it in the VCR and everything. Yeah.
I think I didn't need to see the movie because I lived in the danger zone.
You were a Top Gun pilot yourself, actually.
Yes.
You wrote
Top
that
Gun
movie.
pilot of life in my little small town.
Oh, speaking of
so you've
pilots.
had a busy week.
I didn't know how to segue, so I'm glad you said something.
No, let's talk about you. You got to meet with Jim Bridenstine.
Yeah,
that was cool.
I did. It was very impromptu. Like, that was, I had no idea. I all of a sudden got like an email and a phone call, and it was like, "Hey, do you have time afterwards to talk to Jim Bridenstine?" I was like, "Yeah, I think I can make that happen." And they're like, "Yeah, he wants you to interview him." I'm like, "I don't have any."
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Oh, I figured you had to bribe someone.
No. He reached out to me, I guess. I'm sure it has to do.
That's
I'm sure he
awesome.
saw the Elon interview and just, and he follows on me on Twitter, so I think he just thought it could be good for my audience to hear what he's excited about too. And it was fun. I think we've talked about this on the show. I really like Jim Bridenstine.
Yeah.
I can tell he's working really hard, which isn't something you always get the feeling from someone in any kind of political position,
Yeah.
And he's knowledgeable. He knows his stuff. He went from he has no science background, he was a pilot, but
Oh, he was a pilot?
yeah, he was a pilot. So so
Like
at
in
least
the Air Force or anything like that?
I think it was Navy. I'm gonna.
Oh, okay.
Whoever is hearing this is probably screaming right now that I don't know this, but yeah, he was a pilot. And so, but
Well, I didn't even know he was a pilot. So.
yeah. so he's obviously comes from like a technical background, but just to see him learn so much about the space program and be genuinely enthusiastic has been very encouraging. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I'm with you. I didn't know anything about him when he got the job, but I knew he was a congressman. Mm-hmm. And let's just say I wasn't really expecting much from him, and he's really stepped up. And I'm glad you got a chance to talk with him, but I've always been curious, was this something that he always was into and was lobbying to be able to do this once he got the chance, or did he just kind of get thrown in there and then he kind of like you just fell in love with it once he got in there? And
right. Yeah.
What's your sense on that? Do you have any idea?
I don't know if he's like.
Y'all are best buds now.
Well, I know he's I think he's a Star Trek fan. I don't remember which one he said he is, honestly, now, but I think he's been a fan of sci-fi and stuff. But yeah, it just seems like now that he's in it, because he was even kind of on record, having doubts about things like climate change and stuff like that. So people were rightfully upset that he'd be, NASA administrator that would also be someone that's like a climate change denier too.
Yep.
But he has since changed his tone a lot. I mean, and that's probably what happens. It probably depends on the company you're with a lot of times before you actually, gain an appreciation for the sciences and things like that. So, you throw that man in front of NASA and let some of the smartest people in the entire world, help explain things to him and show him around and show him what the science they're actually working on. Because sometimes even, for us that appreciate this stuff, like when I've gone to different science centers and get a tour, like at Goddard and JPL and all these things, I'm always like, yeah, I know what NASA does. Like NASA's cool. And then you see like someone in the back room, like literally just like working with a laser for 15 years to like make it try to do it. And you're just like, holy cow. Like, yeah, it's just easy to forget. So I'm sure some of that just rubbed off,
Yeah. Well, without getting too political,
which is hard.
There have been many appointments that this administration has made where it's kind of like, here's the person who's been lobbying his whole life to get rid of this department. Let's put him in charge of it.
Yeah.
Like that's happened a lot.
That has happened
So let's just say my hopes for Bridenstine when he got appointed, I was kind of like, well, it's probably another one of those things. And let's just be fair. He could have been a pencil pusher kind of guy that had an agenda and he goes in there and he doesn't really care about blah, blah, blah. And I mean, it's not a guarantee that stuff might have rubbed off on him. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it either did or it was already there. Either way, he's really jumped into it. I'm impressed with the guy for the most part.
Yeah.
But what you said, like I remember hearing that he had doubts about climate change in the past, and then like once he became NASA administrator, he kind of changed his tone. And then I was like, okay, so did he always believe in it, but he had to say that for political reasons,
right?
Because of pressures or whatever,
right.
Or did he just get around the science and was like, oh wow, this is overwhelming. There's no
really cool.
debate
right.
here,
Yeah.
It's all curious to me.
Yeah.
But I'm happy with what he's doing. So
and about the again, this isn't meaning to be a political statement. It's just a political fact. The reason, for instance, this administration has had almost four times more lobbyists actually start working as appointees, in the in the cabinet in different positions, that's something we've never seen before, really. The number went from 70 or something to almost 300.
It's always been a problem. It's probably worse now, but it's always been a problem.
Yeah. So to see, someone that I don't think either of us really knew too much about, to come through here and be excited. What I like is that he's excited, but he also is trying to hold some accountability. Which is a balance. So I kind of pegged him a little bit on that. And I told him right away, first off, I'm always excited to see that you're enthusiastic and knowledgeable. That rubs off and it matters. Yeah. But also that he has been trying to, get back to a budget, get back to a timeline, and especially start holding these companies timeline, and putting pressure on them. This is actually, so I'll say in general, my time with Bridenstine was great. I could have always talked to him for about 30 more minutes, probably. Same with, when I got to talk to Elon, it's I got, it's in the background, come on, Yeah. He literally had a flight to catch, so he had very limited time. But this is actually a good segue here, believe it or not. Because we could talk about...
I believe it.
So speaking of accountability and things, I just wanted to show you what happened when I was scrolling on Reddit this week. When you go to Reddit/space, there's one article that says NASA's first SLS mega rocket launch to the moon could be delayed till 2021. So slipping it basically from the end of next year to early 2021, right? This is, we talk about SLS a lot on the show. But I just want to show you the article right after that. This is the thing I really want to talk to Bridenstine about more. NASA will award Boeing a cost-plus contract for up to 10 SLS rockets. So, good job. You're literally 5 years behind, 6 years behind if it goes off in 2021. Let us award you 10 more SLS rockets at cost-plus contracting. And
so pretend I'm an idiot and I don't know what this means. The cost plus thing. What does that mean?
Yeah. So cost plus, and actually Ars Technica here. Eric Berger, I think wrote. Yeah, Eric Berger wrote this article. It's a really good in-depth article on basically the principles behind cost plus contracting and everything. But basically the idea is, especially at the beginning of spaceflight, when spaceflight was, still considered the holy grail of engineering. It was really like, it was so risky that no company was going to like be like, hey, just pay me $10 million and I'll figure it out. You know, it was like, since this is risky and we don't know if it'll succeed, how about like you give us money and or you tell us what you need and we'll make it. And then we'll just like add a little bit of money on top to like cover our costs, basically, so that we still profit because we are, so we don't just like lose money, right? or so we don't break it even, so we still get like 10% over the top, right? But the problem is with that, you are literally not incentivized in any way, shape, or form to actually produce anything on time, on budget. There's no real accountability there because it's like, well, this is just what it costs. You told us to do it. Like, this is what you told us to do, so we're just doing it. And it actually incentivizes them to go slower because then they can, like, make more money, actually. So, yeah, not good, in my opinion. I'm tired of I wish... So NASA's paid, by the time this first rocket goes off, NASA will have paid basically around $20 billion in development and all that stuff for the SLS program. Just SLS, not Orion 2, which got similar funding. And my criticism is not with Boeing and Lockheed Martin. They're doing what they're contracted to do and the system in place, and NASA's doing what the traditional system in place is doing too. The thing is, once the rocket's developed, why can't they then do a fixed price contracting? Why can't they tell Boeing, okay, you know what it's going to cost. We will order 10 rockets at this price, period. On these dates.
Because the development's done.
The development's done. NASA's paid for all of that. Why did they still win cost plus contracting? I see
what you're saying.
Really frustrating to me.
Yeah.
Like, where's the accountability on this? And the problem is the person that writes the checks is an Alabama senator. So it's literally like writes the checks for these programs. So it's literally in their best interest to keep this going slow too.
Yeah.
So this is where people get frustrated and where, when you're talking about, SpaceX and all that stuff and private programs and private companies, where people get really frustrated because I think they could easily see that if at this point Boeing's or SpaceX or NASA goes, good job, we will order 10 of these and each of them at $800 million. Even then, I'd still say screw that. Like you could order, 5 flights of Falcon Heavy for each one of those.
Yeah.
That's the frustration.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so exciting to see private companies getting, their things going here because like on top of all that, like you just said, there's also just the political wins, like Artemis is a big deal for the Trump administration, but when he's out and somebody else comes in and they got to tighten the country's belts for whatever reason, NASA's always one of the people that gets the little line across in the budget, and
right.
I hope Artemis doesn't go away.
Yeah.
But it totally could with anybody's decision,
It would be harder now, at least that awards and contracts have been given out. That helps. And that's the part of me that like, I'm happy. I'm really excited to see that we have like, hardware being built, contracts signed and sealed and like a clear goal. And for 2 more years, a lot more checks being written, which will basically pretty much ensure that the Artemis program will happen. This is a lot further than we've ever gotten in in the past 10 years on something like this. So I'm really happy about that. Like, let me be clear. I want this. I do want to see 4K video of people walking around the moon. Like, period. Yeah. And it'll be awesome. But the thing is that Bridenstine keeps saying is we want to go back to the moon sustainably. So you want to go back to the moon sustainably using a $1 billion rocket and like an $800 million spacecraft every time, like a $2 billion mission, when I guarantee it, the private industry could do it for half that or a quarter that. And that's the frustrating part for me.
It's also amazing to me in the days of, I know we're kind of counting this chicken before it hatches, but let's just talk about Starship for a second. This whole total reusability thing. Mm-hmm. No, it's not up there yet, but we're working on it. It's getting there. I say we. Yeah. It sounded like a football fan.
We're going to push through the third quarter. I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to get this. But the idea, like, when I look at the Saturn V and I think about how, like, that tiny little silvery, shimmery thing on the very top is the only thing that comes back. Mm-hmm. I mean, well, I guess it all comes back, but in the ocean,
Right.
And it's the same thing with SLS, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like...
Yeah.
it's all used up. I guess they can refurbish the solid rocket boosters, but still,
they aren't even going to.
Oh, they're not?
Mm-mm. Nope. And they're totally ditching those RS-25s. Yeah.
If we have the technology and the ability to have a fully reusable spacecraft and keep the cost down by doing it that way, it just feels like you're going back in time at this point doing that. And I know I'm counting chickens before they hatch. Starship is not a thing yet, but
anyway. At this point, it's about as far along as SLS. I mean,
well,
really?
Yeah.
I mean, SLS hasn't, granted, SLS has a launch pad. Let's be clear, SLS is certified, though. Like, this is something that confuses people, is that it is one of the reasons it takes a lot longer is NASA and Boeing still chooses to do this with, like, say, Starliner and stuff like that. They actually certify every component on the rocket for flight. That means these components need to be, like, certified on their own. Of course, once they're all put together, who knows? But it's a calculated risk, and it literally is calculated by people who say, okay, this thing will fail at this number, therefore we'll make it so it's this, the yada yada yada, and they certify the vehicle. So SLS, by the time it flies, will literally be human certified, and they thought about putting people on the first launch. Even they're not going to, but it was a consideration to let's just put astronauts up on it on the first go. And it wouldn't be a terrible thing because it has been designed from the get-go. They aren't trying to certify anything through the flight, really. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're going to launch and go, okay, now we're just trying to verify 10 of these systems here. It's more like, no, we're launching it just as a total shakedown, But yeah, that's not how SpaceX does things. So when we see SpaceX launch something like Starship, and especially the first orbital Starship, it'll be a lot different vehicle than something like a completed SLS. Let's just be clear about that, because it is exciting, and trust me, I believe that that's the way we're going to look at things, and especially in 5-10 years, I think NASA will hop on that train too, especially with private companies doing those risks. But even though a Starship might fly and even be recovered and landed, it is not at the same development, in the same place of development as something like SLS and Lockheed Martin's Orion capsule.
That's a fair point.
But financially, do I think or even the future, do I think it's worth it? No, I don't. I mean, I've said this on the show a few times. I think 5 years ago, yes, 100%. But we're just at this really awkward point where it's like, dude, you guys, it's taking way too long. I thought Orion was going to fly with people on it in 2016. I watched it do its test flight in 2014. And they were saying 2 more years and people will be up on it on an SLS rocket. Come on.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
Well, speaking of people in space, probably they would need some suits to wear.
Wouldn't that be interesting if there's some new spacesuits for a new generation? But this is the part that I like, is look at this. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, NASA did reveal their new spacesuits. Both their IVA, their inner vehicle spacesuits. It's nice, fun music. Both their inner vehicle spacesuits and their extravehicular spacesuits. So those of you that are listening, there's two new flavors of spacesuits, the ones that you would launch in. And it looks a lot like the old Aces suit.
I like how that guy's strutting down the catwalk.
He is totally strutting. It looks a lot like the space shuttle suit, but a lot trimmer. But then look at this. This is the new EVA suit. And watch how the astronaut will get into it. They climb in through the back, and they're literally suited up and ready to go in minutes instead of hours. Isn't that crazy? So
this is kind of like that cicada type thing where you peel your suit out from the back.
Yeah. I don't know if it's gonna be mounted like that for sure, but it could do that. You could mount this on the outside of a vehicle, right, the outside of a rover or stuff like that, and literally climb into it, and that it becomes its own part of a air, part of a, what's that called, a hatch or whatever, which is just an interesting concept. It can do that if they want it to. But yeah, that's the new. That's called the XEMU suit. So here's some pictures of it all together. I hope you can see this okay. Yeah, what do you think? When you first see this, what are your thoughts?
The first thought that I had was it's so bulky on the top. It's almost more like a diving bell. It doesn't look like the helmet actually turns. It's like your head turns inside of the helmet.
Right. And that's true.
Is that true of all of them? I guess it might.
And
be.
I think that's
really
that's true. Especially the Apollo. I remember it's weird because some people have to like lean forward to like look left and right, because the head's like mounted to the shoulders,
I don't know if it was in a video you just showed, but I did see she was kind of showing how flexible it was. Like she was able to go all the way like down to the ground, kind of dipping or whatever.
Yep.
So it seems to have a lot more mobility than the previous ones, and that joint in the waist is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it is and it isn't. Like, it looks really ugly. I wish I could have covered it up a little bit. But it's totally functional. Like, that's function over form for me, in my opinion, 1,000 times over. It's just kind of weird. There's just a big metal circle around her waist,
Yeah, my concern is, would lunar dust get into that and keep it from,
moving.
turning?
I'm pretty sure I assume that it's all sealed up and they've, did something to like seal all the bearings and everything to keep lunar dust, because that's definitely a big concern. This suit is designed. This will be what the next generation of astronauts is walking around on the moon with. My biggest.
It kind of looks like a kid in 5th grade carrying a bag full of books. It's like bigger than they are,
Yeah, it does. It does. My biggest thing. There's two thoughts. Is one, I hate the red, white, and blue.
Really?
Oh, man. Did you ever see this was like the concept? Look at that.
I'd seen it, yeah.
Now this is based on that. I think this is the X2 or Z2. They have the Z2.
Yeah, Z2.
And it's, it says it right there. It says it on the screen.
It's like Zoot Suit is what I see when I see that.
It does look like that. But the Z2 spacesuit, I loved it being gray and had like these cool, just like unique, I don't know. I thought that was super awesome.
Has an Iron Man glowing thing on the chest there.
Yes, like an arc reactor, basically. And this is based on that, but it's just, I just can't get over the colors, to be honest. I don't know. Red, like just seems a little over the top.
Well, the colors work for the United States. They work for Russia. They work for France.
Yeah, it's true. We'll only invite people from those countries.
Sorry, Germany.
Yeah, sorry.
You and your orange.
But they also, like I said, they did also introduce this suit as well, which is the OCSS suit, and that's what you'd actually ride like when you get on Orion, and you're riding like into space. It's your IVA, your intervehicular activity suit, and they're just they're pressurized, but you're not meant to like go into space. Like you wouldn't do a spacewalk with this. You wouldn't walk around on the moon with this. These are just to protect you in case of a loss of pressurization on ascent and through reentry. And if the reason that they're orange is because if you do have to abort or something and land in the ocean, or if you land off target, you're in the ocean, you want to be brightly visible, and orange stands out really well against the blue background. So that's why those suits are traditionally orange. Which, I like this. I actually like this suit a lot. I think that looks great. And I was trying to find the manufacturer. I couldn't tell if this is David Clark or not, but it does look very similar to the Boeing spacesuit, where it has those like kind of frills on the joints. And it looks nice and trim. And it definitely is a step up from the Ace's space shuttle suit, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think you need a new spacesuit, man.
It does.
What's that thing on his leg?
Oh, these are like survival packs.
Okay.
Maybe flotations, and like there's like knives and stuff in there. I'm serious.
A flask.
There actually is like a knife. I read that somewhere. It's like they have all these things, for survival gear if they crash somewhere or whatever.
Oh, so I can't get a knife on an airplane, but these space guys get to carry knives on their ship. That's not fair.
But astronauts in a thing where they could poke a hole in it and it'd not go very well, gonna have knives.
He's just like playing with a knife in the back while they're launching, and whoops.
Just like those people that like do switchblades really fast randomly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and again, this is more exciting to me than anything else, because like this is serious. This is real. They'll be custom tailored. They aren't just going to be small, medium, and large. I like this. This gets me excited. This makes me realize that like we really are going back to the moon, and it's not just some. Like, in 10 years, Yeah. Like, it finally is. A lot of checks have been written. A lot of hardware has been developed. A lot of work has actually been done behind the scenes.
What always gets me when I see things like that, or one of the first thoughts that I had when I was watching it, was how, like, I mean, even the the different connections on the gloves and stuff, like things like somebody had to design that.
Oh yeah.
You know, and probably they're using some variant of something that they designed 40, 50 years ago, whatever. But still, it's like we get really caught up in the rocketry,
Right.
which is obviously fun. But there's like, it goes so deep, the stuff that they have to design and create for space travel.
Yep.
That we kind of forget about those little details, and it is kind of cool to be reminded of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of engineering that goes into these things, and especially to try to make them slim but still mobile is very difficult. Yeah, and I wanted to kind of, while we're at it, I wanted to remind people with there's other spacesuits out there, because Boeing will have one, and this is a video of me wearing Boeing's spacesuit. This is last year I wore this, and I have to say, okay, I just want you to look at this. I want you to look at like the way it actually fits. There's a part where like, so look at that. So for those of you who are listening, if you just look up Boeing spacesuit on YouTube, you'll probably find one of my videos of me actually wearing Boeing spacesuit. Highly flexible, easy to move around in, and it's actually pretty trim. Yeah. Like, it's surprisingly trim. Now I want to compare this. So everyone loves SpaceX's spacesuit, right? But I'm going to say this publicly.
Uh-oh.
When you actually see it on actual people with actual bodies, not mannequins, I think I actually like the Boeing suit better, SpaceX helmet better.
I see. Yeah, no, it's kind of frumpy.
A little bit.
It's a little frumpy.
Yep. I mean, these are guys with like big shoulders. You know, they're well-built, larger guys. I don't know about larger, but you know, they're of substance, you know, and yeah, they're not little tiny Starman mannequins, you know, especially like the neck ends up getting really short and pretty fat compared to what it looked like on Starman. Yeah, it's just kind of too bad. Yeah, compare that to, I think this suit actually, the suit itself actually, I think Boeing's looks better. I don't love the belly thing, because it has that, when you're sitting, you can zip that up and it makes it so it helps compress you. Oh God, I flossed. Don't remind me.
You flossed.
Maybe. No, I didn't. I don't know
I think you just like this one because you're so sexy in it.
Well, yeah, look at, I mean, clearly.
You're like, I mean, look at the body.
Yeah, I would just stare at my body for a second. But can you agree? I don't like.
That's pretty dope. It's cool.
Yeah. So but I think almost, to be honest, I think out of all the ones, I think my favorite is actually the new Orion one. That just looks
classic.
It's classic, but more modern.
Yeah.
They didn't try to do anything crazy, and it looks functional.
It's a modern take on a classic. The XEMU. The XEMU.
I was about to move on and I remembered, wait, there's one more. There's one more thing. Yesterday, Virgin Galactic released their suit that people are going to be wearing when they ride on Spaceship 2. And again, this is definitely not like a pressure suit. It's really just like a jumpsuit that you're supposed to wear when you're riding, when you get about 4 minutes of weightlessness. But it is really pretty looking, and so far it's mostly just a guy talking, so I did not choose a very good video. But here's Richard Branson wearing it. Yeah, it's cool. I think this is pretty slick, pretty cool looking spacesuit. I'll hesitate to call it a spacesuit because yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's not like a pressurized suit or anything. It's
definitely not. It's kind of like cozy 0G pajamas.
Let's make that happen.
Dude, yes. Yeah, so that's...
You're good at merchandising. You could figure that out. What's on their heads?
Future dust.
Oh, good Lord.
I don't actually know. That is a good question. What? Is that what we're doing now? Is that what the cool kids are doing?
Is that the style? Is that what the kids are doing?
Crap. Or is that because they crashed into something doing 0G stuff? Like they just like crashed into a paint
They
bucket.
went headfirst into a gold-painted wall that had not dried.
And no one noticed when they're doing the photo shoot. But I like that Richard Branson's like, yeah, no, you guys do that. You put it on your eyes. You two crash it on your forehead. Not me. But yeah, I think that's exciting. Congrats to Virgin for finally getting this out. The Under Armour.
So this just happened at the same time as
this happened.
The other one? Like,
yeah, this
all these people are just releasing their spacesuits all of a sudden? Or
yep,
what's
it's Spacesuit Week. I guess. Huh. Yeah, it's just fun to see. This helps, humanize it. This is the part that, kind of drills it in that this is what we're doing. So
can Under Armour still be called Under Armour when it's over?
When it's outer armor?
When it's outer, it needs to be outer armor or over armor.
They used to super be like under. Now they're not. So
Make
what?
Up your mind, just armor
for real. So that's pretty much mostly what I wanted to talk about this week. There's a few. I mean, Rocket Lab launched last night. I just want to mention that just because it was a really pretty launch, as it always is. I love their vehicle and stuff. But the exciting thing for Rocket Lab is the next time they launch, we're going to see the secret hardware that will hopefully get them to be able to do recoverability. This is
what is this?
Their recoverability with the Electron, where they're going to catch it with a parachute.
Oh, okay.
And a helicopter? Yeah.
Right. No. Okay. Sorry. I was thinking like space junk recovery.
Yeah. No.
That's where my head.
The next launch we're going to see is going to be the first one with the recovery hardware, which is really exciting. So I'm going to be paying close attention to that one, and that's probably a month away. They seem to be trying to launch about once a month now. So yeah, that's going to be really exciting. So
when was the last one they launched?
Before this, it was 2 months ago. I think it was July.
Feels like it's been a while.
It has been a little. I mean, for them, it's been a while. They got a pretty good cadence of once a month, and I think they're hopefully going to get kind of back at it. So
yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, that's fun little fact.
Yeah. Boop, boop, boop. No, I saw that they had live streamed a launch, and I had a chance to go look at it. But
yeah,
I mean, it's kind of cool that I don't know, like it was an event when they first launched, and it's like, oh, a new company, and they got this stuff up, and now it's kind of like, oh yeah, they launched again. That's nice.
Yep.
Move on.
Yep.
But that's good though. That's good.
Yeah. Well, that's good, and it's good that they're going to be doing recoverability because it will bring some of that excitement back to the table, and some of that, like, we want companies to push the envelope. Like, watching an Atlas V rocket's fun, but like after you've watched one, you've seen them all really. Like, oh, this one's gonna do this. Yeah. So. Yeah. I like when companies are nimble enough that you start actually seeing changes in their hardware and in their practices, like in real time. That's just, obviously we've enjoyed that with SpaceX. Yeah. So it's fun to see another company doing that.
Nimbility? Nimbleness.
Speaking of nimbility and speed, do you know where I'm going on this one?
I think so.
I hope
Tesla?
So. Yeah, baby.
Okay, so I will be Ben for a minute.
Okay, yeah, you're Ben. Hey, Ben.
How's the baby? Screaming kid in the background. I don't share my screen very often, guys, so I'm going to do my best here. So we've been hearing about Model S Plaid, and can I just say, when we started talking about Model S Plaid, it didn't really occur to me that we're really talking about like what the Roadster can do. Like that level of put your eye sockets into the back of your head kind of thing.
Right.
So I was just kind of like, yeah, that's cool, whatever. But no, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
And so, the Porsche Taycan.
Taycan, yep.
I will never say it right.
I know.
The Porsche Taycan broke some records on the Nurburgring, which is another word I'll never say right.
Nurburgring.
Nurburgring?
Yeah, Nurburgring.
I went to the doctor this morning to look at my Nurburgring.
Nurburgring. There we go.
It's not getting any better. It's getting no better.
It's getting worse.
So anyway, the Taycan did really well, broke some records and stuff. So of course Tesla was like, no, you didn't. And so they started putting their Plaid version out there. Now this is still like a prototype, but they started racing it around. And so a witness said that the Plaid Model S already crushed the Porsche Taycan's Nurburgring time, and Tesla confirmed that, but it hasn't been made official by the track. And I think they were out there like last month or something, and they said they would come back in October. Well, now it's October, and it's been spotted at the track. And here's a little video of it tooling around there. And I got to say, I was saying this to you earlier, like when you see that thing take off,
man.
Like look at this, zip.
Oh, man.
It's just like immediately going super fast.
From here to gone.
Yeah.
Well, and just for those of you that know, like beating 7 minutes is the like holy grail at Nurburgring for a production car to break 7 minutes. And I'm hearing they're like just over 7 minutes, and that would be insane. That will make people go, oh, like even the serious motorheads would be like, holy cow, you know. I think
so. You're saying that never happens?
Very rarely. Like companies are
in a production car.
Very rarely.
Okay.
I think the Dodge Viper had a hard time even, and you know the serious like ACR Dodge Viper or whatever it was, had a really hard time breaking. It's 2017 Dodge Viper ACR Nurburgring 701.3 official lap. They did not break 7 minutes. Isn't that crazy?
Gotcha.
And from what I'm hearing, this is at like just over around a similar pace. 705 is achievable.
705. Yeah. Okay.
So if they happen to break 7 minutes with a 4-door sedan, with zero emissions, that not only 4 doors, sits 7 people.
Yeah.
And destroys a freaking like pre-made race car, you know, like the Dodge Viper. The Dodge Viper ACR is about as hardcore of a track car as you can possibly buy. And then this 4-door family car will not only smash it 0 to 60, it'll absolutely destroy it or keep up with it at the Nürburgring. Like no one saw that coming.
It says it would become one of the fastest 4-door vehicles on the Nürburgring track.
Argue and say that it will be one of the fastest production cars on the Nürburgring track, period.
And you can buy this car in October, November of next year. So about a year from now.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy. Like for instance, I'm trying to look up here, fastest cars around the Nürburgring 2019. Let's just scroll through this real quick, because this will help you put into perspective, like how fast the 7s are. Some concept car got 715, great. Renault Sport Megane, which is like a little hot hatch, 740. The Porsche Taycan 742. Let's see the fastest cars around. These are the top. Period. I like how they forgot the 10. Okay, so Porsche 911 GT2 RS MR is MR. What does that mean? Mid? I don't know. 640, and these are hypercars basically. McLaren P1 643, Lamborghini Aventador 644. Let's see. Yeah, and by the end the Lamborghini Aventador SVJ is 659. For instance, the freaking Ferrari Enzo, like the hypercar of the early 2000s, like the best car basically for this, 725. So that puts it into perspective. I mean, geez. Yeah. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited about that. Would you buy one?
Well, no. But what I was just thinking though was like, look at those cars in that top 10. I would love to see their prices next to them, and then the price of the Plaid. Even though it's probably going to be what, 120-ish maybe.
Probably one
or more.
Yeah, probably 120, 130, I would guess, because
depending on how you spec it out. But
yeah, right now when you spec one all the way out, because they've come down a lot in price. They were about 150 only about a year ago for a fully spec'd out S. Now I think you can spec one out for about 110. So maybe we'll get back up to that 150 if you spec one out in Plaid mode.
Yeah, but still a lot less than a McLaren.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Than a $1.5 million hypercar.
Yeah. And that's really interesting, because in general, electric cars are thought of as being super expensive, and understandably so. But then when you compare its performance up against things like that, it's like, actually, it's a steal if you put it in that way. Now that doesn't help anybody who can barely afford to, get a used Honda Accord to get to work. But
But the other part is that it's actually a practical car you can use every day. It's maybe arguably one of the best cars you can drive around every day. Like if from a day-to-day, like grand touring and practicality and comfort and quietness, like all of the things and tech. Oh, and guess what? It's also faster than a Ferrari Enzo. Like,
there's that. No, it's funny. So like we've both had our cars for about a year now, and yours is a performance, so it's gonna outperform mine. But it's funny because like when I get new people in the car and I give them the little boost, let them feel the acceleration, I'm always like, this is the slowest car they make. It's literally the slowest car they make.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe some of the older Model S's might not be up there.
Yeah, the slower, and the original like 75 Model X was pretty slow. Like slow being like 5.3 or something, you know?
Right. But today,
that's crazy.
Like today is the slowest car they make.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like if I don't get asked about it a lot, but like with all the tech and all the entertainment system and everything, which by the way, I went to a doctor's appointment this morning and I got there early, so I just pulled up some YouTube and was watching YouTube in my car. Who doesn't do that?
That's so nuts.
But even with all that, my favorite thing about the car is the way it drives.
Yeah.
You know, just being able to zip around somebody like it's nothing.
Yep.
Or like, you know, when you're driving down the highway and you get in one of those weird tight spots where everybody like all clumps together, you can just kind of get around them. And there's a turn right out here by my house on a pretty busy street, and you sit there and you try to find a way a gap to get in. It's like I don't sit there for half as long as I used to because I can just very easily just pull right out and zoom. I'm at cruising speed along with everybody else. Speed. Whereas before it was like, and the guy's like coming up behind me in the rear view.
Don't hit me.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing that people don't realize is like, yes, maybe even if it's 0 to 60 time is the same. Say you have two cars with a 5 actually the standard Model 3 like that and my old BMW 328i had about the same 0 to 60. But like the pep factor, the fact that like you can do that at 15 mile an hour and just boop, just put your foot down. There's no downshifting. You don't have to be in the right gear. You don't have to be at the right RPM. Yeah. It just goes. There's something like it's super golf karty in that sense of like, like it goes with your foot, and it's fun. Even if it's the same 0 to 60 driving around town, it just feels way peppier, I don't
know if I talked about it here, but I probably talked about it with you guys, but when we were in California and I went up to San Jose and I was up there for the Andy Weir thing, but I splurged a little and I got like a really nice BMW 4 Series convertible to rent, just because, I had a little bit extra and I was like, why not? I only had it for a day, but I was just blown away by how much worse it was than my car to drive around in. Cause I was like, this is a nice car.
Right.
And probably cost quite a bit more than mine.
Right.
But like I got on the highway and I would hit the gas and it was like that delay.
Yeah.
That let me get there, and then it would finally get up to speed and I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like I just, like weird, I said, I've had it for about a year now and I don't really think about it much anymore, but that.
Yep.
It would be different if I was just like in a cheap car and I was like that. I was like, well, it's a cheap car, but this is like a really nice car. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it still does not perform as well as the car I've got in my garage.
Right.
It's amazing.
It is. Yeah. It's one of those things that I think, and hopefully we're not harping on this too long, but and it's not necessarily Tesla, but it is an advantage of EVs that I hope becomes more and more viable. Because, people, it takes until people actually ride in one, I think, before it really clicks about how fun it is or drives one before they realize like, oh, this is awesome. Like this is better, factually speaking. So yeah.
Yeah. And I really do look forward to hopefully the next 5 years or so when the prices get down to where it's not such a exclusive elite kind of thing. Like I'm very, very, very lucky that I can afford this car.
Right.
A lot of people can't.
Right.
And I kind of feel douchey talking about it like this and being all like, my car's so awesome, but when you're excited about something, it just kind of comes out. But I just kind of want to be able to share that with more people and not not have it be such an economic barrier.
Right. Well, and I hope like soon, I don't know, like Civics and stuff, like a standard, you will have the option really soon that like all the car companies are just hopping on it and like clearly EV just makes the most sense. Volkswagen I think is trying the Volkswagen Group with some cars, but like I feel like that's pretty slow, like the ID3 and all that stuff or whatever those ones are. Like, come on, guys, get on it. I do look forward to getting in an ID3. I'm curious about them. Yeah,
I've seen some cool videos that has piqued my interest a bit.
Same. I mean, I think they look really cool, and I'm a big fan of Golfs. So yeah. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the best thing is that they can lower the carbon, output. of the planet.
Which I am all in favor of.
Are you?
As is anybody who is concerned about the
Do you like the idea
of
there being less carbon in the atmosphere?
I think somebody came up with something about that.
What? Tell us.
We don't need Ben for these segues.
We don't need. I think Ben hinders our ability. I feel like because I think this has been great.
Yes, I'm sure the audience agrees. Anyway, I have talked in the past about something I'm interested in, mildly excited about, with a little bit of skepticism, I suppose, but about carbon capture, about removing CO2 from the air. I just think it's something we're just going to have to do at some point. Anyway, I ran across this. It was on Science Alert, where it looks like a team in Japan came up with this new material that captures CO2 10 times better than previous carbon capture techniques. Jeez. Or at least of this kind. So it's called a porous coordination polymer, or PCP.
Whoops.
It's pretty unfortunate. But it says it's made up of zinc metal ions. They're able to selectively capture CO2 molecules with 10 times greater efficiency than other PCPs. And it's reusable. It says it's still running at maximum efficiency even after 10 reaction cycles. 10 seems kind of low. I hope it gets up higher than that, but still, I guess the fact that it's reusable at all is good.
Yeah. What are the what's a reaction cycle, I guess? Is it like I would have never thought a carbon capture thing would be like a single use thing, you know?
Yeah.
Or
I imagine it's kind of like charging and discharging a battery. Like you can capture all the carbon and then do something with it and then reuse it.
Well, probably the filter,
polymer.
I guess, too, or whatever. Or something like that.
I spent a whole 10 minutes reading this article before we got on here, so I don't know that I have the answer to that. But it says it's also known as a metal organic framework that let's see. The idea of carbon... I'm just going to read the article to you guys. How about that? The low reactivity of carbon dioxide means it's difficult to capture and lock away without using a lot of energy along the way. But this one, it talks about how... Where did it go? Anyway, it was saying that basically it changes its molecular structure when it comes into contact with CO2, so it kind of locks it away molecularly, with sort of almost like a fan. Like the molecules themselves are almost like fans that kind of turn and lock it into place.
Whoa.
But yeah, it's saying it's able to recognize molecules by size and shape. Once the material is done its CO2 sucking job, it can be reused or recycled as an organic polymer. Which can be used as polyurethane for clothing, packaging, domestic appliances.
Whoa.
So it's got like a Second Life application to it.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
This does not say how expensive it is to make this.
Right, that's always the problem.
That's always the thing. So that's again, it's kind of okay.
Yeah, research papers and projects like this are one thing. Turning it into a scalable, manufacturable and sustainable thing, it becomes its own challenge.
Yeah. So there's a couple other things it mentions here is the university in Australia has a way of turning CO2 back into coal using a chemical reaction involving cerium. And in Rice University, right here in Texas, has been able to develop a device for turning CO2 into liquid fuel. In this case, the metal bismuth is the key ingredient and formic acid is the end result. So it's exciting to me that there's all these different ideas that are coming to the fore in terms of finding ways of capturing CO2 and doing things with it. I think I talked a little bit with Ben about this last week and you weren't around, but, yes, cut down on our carbon footprint. Yes, electric cars. Yes, fusion energy and nuclear power and all that. But I mean, it's going to be a long time before we have electric jumbo jets.
Right.
It's going to be a long time, if ever, before we have electric shipping ships that, they burn a lot of fuel.
A lot, yeah.
Plastic all comes from petroleum and whatnot. So having ways of pulling that out of the atmosphere and either making fuels with it or plastics or structures or whatever is a way of kind of locking that back in. And I just see it as something that's just going to be necessary going forward.
Yeah.
We're like, even if our entire electric grid was fusion energy and completely clean, there would still be some applications that are going to be putting that out in the atmosphere, and there's just no getting around that for a very long time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Being able to like seize or even start reducing carbon in our atmosphere would be pretty desirable, you know. Like you said, the hard part I think is having a system in place that can have that's sustainable to even power the system, you know. Like sure you can pull some carbon out of the atmosphere, but to actually produce that thing, to power that thing, to transport that thing to wherever in the what's the net result, you know, because it's tricky. And I think that's the whole thing is like it's almost like a perpetual motion machine in a sense, you know, like to overcome it's sustainability and all that stuff. It's interesting.
So you capture the CO2 out of the air, create fuel out of it, use the fuel to power the machine that pulls more CO2 out of the air.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly.
Science. Profit. Collect underpants.
It's almost like, I mean, as far as that goes, it's almost like, why don't they just why don't they just put a small turbine in every part of the EV shell that hits air, more aerodynamic, more efficient, and putting electricity back to the battery. That's today's, by the way, sorry, really jarringly, just because it was talking about, we were talking about kind of perpetual motion machines. This tweet comes from...
that was a pretty good segue, I gotta tell you.
Nimanju Durek at DJ Eurikis?
We can't pronounce anything in your name.
Sorry, I tried. DJ Eurikis on Twitter. Yeah, so why don't they just put small turbines all over the cars, and then they can just like recapture the energy? Even as the car's driving down the road, why don't they just spin little turbines on the car and charge the batteries?
That would be an interesting design decision. No, I could definitely see the air. I don't know the words, but the airfoils where the air kind of comes into your grill or whatever, like. Being able to put something in there. I just imagine it wouldn't generate that much. That would be my assumption. But what do you think?
We're getting into like literally perpetual motion machines.
Yeah. You lose something along the way there.
Yep, you increase drag. Like that energy comes from somewhere. It's not just like magic air. So the trick is, let's just pretend you took a car, you drove it down the interstate, and you just stuck a whole bunch of turbines all over it, right? It's going to take more energy to push all those turbines than they will return, just due to intrinsic losses. There's going to be even things like disturbances in the wind foil that makes it so the actual turbines aren't perfectly efficient. Then you have friction in the generator that is, not converting all of the electricity perfectly. And then you have all these other small losses, and then including the battery pack. The battery's not going to be 100% efficient at storing the energy. So no matter what, you're actually just increasing drag. The amount of drag you produce will be more than the amount of energy it can produce. Right. You just intrinsically cannot produce more energy than what's put into the system. But, you ready for this one? Have you ever heard of this concept? Putting turbines along the side of the road. Because there's these big, when cars drive by, especially semis, think about how much wind, and in tunnels, how much wind gets forced through those areas. And that actually is free. That actually is, a side effect, a wasted wake of airfoil, of air movement,
Yeah.
And so you could actually capture, it might not be much, but that's a way you can actually capture. But you can't do it on the vehicle. If you do it on the vehicle, you're just actually slowing down the vehicle more than it's producing energy.
Has anybody done this?
They talked about doing it at an airport once, I saw. There is a concept where as an airplane takes off, they actually would capture, and it would actually absorb some sound as well, which would be really interesting. And it was seen as a potential way to help power the airport. It was actually like turbines down the runway that are somehow integrated onto I don't know. I don't exactly know how it works, but I think that's a cool concept.
Yeah. This is actually an interesting thing to talk about. There's like all these little micro energy capture methods that could be employed. And I think the economics of it always have to come down to how much money are we spending and how much would we get back from it. I've heard of things like pressure sensitive flooring in like malls and high public places that would just capture the energy of people walking on it.
Right.
And doing something with that. I mean, there's so many little like things that we expend energy doing, and that energy just kind of like goes out into the ether or whatever, but it could be captured in some small way.
Right.
I always have to default to like, if nobody's ever done it, there's probably a reason why.
Right.
Because somebody sat down with a calculator and took the time that I'm not taking and said, there's no way this would be worth it, you know?
After 20 years of someone walking on this floor, we'll get $6 of electricity.
Right. After spending $5 million, building it. It's interesting stuff to think about. I always wondered, like, if you had a house that literally captured every amount of energy that you produced and that, came into it, Like,
why don't you just put solar panels on the inside of your lampshade? Power the lamp with solar panels.
It would just recirculate.
See?
Capture all the light, and it would produce no light for you to use.
Oh, no, but
it's a Dyson lamp.
A Dyson lamp
instead of a Dyson sphere.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
But yeah, I would love that. I remember seeing a concept once about how you can take waste heat from a laptop and like almost do. But the thing is like, why wouldn't the laptop then have like a heat sink thing like that can blah, blah, blah. And it's so minute. It's like the tiniest little bit of electricity.
Right.
And that's probably just what it comes down to. Like people have a hard time understanding like how much it takes a lot of power to run some of the things in our lives. Like here's an idea. Get on one of those like electric bikes that power something.
Right.
And see how little, even when you're working your hardest, how little power you're actually producing.
I've seen somebody do this.
Have you?
There was I don't remember what it was. Shouldn't even say anything. But yeah, no, somebody hooked up a stationary bike basically just to a light bulb. It was like, let's see how hard you have to go to get a light bulb to burn. And it was, I mean, the guy was like sweating and panning and like putting his damnedest into it just to get the light bulb to glow. And it was like, wow, that really puts it all, into perspective.
Yep. We're not good at having perspective on like how much actual energy is behind, things like electricity or moving a car, keeping a car running at 100 kilometers an hour. Like it's a lot of energy there. There's a lot of energy.
Can I go on a slight tangent?
Of course.
So I worked at the Dallas Morning News for 12 years. Well, I worked there full-time for 12 years. I worked there freelance for like a year and a half before that. Anyway, I was there for a while. Mm-hmm. And about a year after I left, they moved to a new headquarters, which was kind of a big deal because they've been in this building since like the 30s. It was like this old building landmark. Like sometimes I would walk out of the building to go to lunch and there are people out there like getting their pictures taken in front of it because it has this big sign and everything. It's like it's like a big iconic landmark. Anyway, but it's this building that's been there forever. And as the company kept getting smaller and smaller, they probably by the time I left it was like 4 stories in a basement, so technically 5 stories tall. They probably could have put everybody on 2 floors by the time I left. So it was just this not being used building. Anyway, they moved everybody out and it's just been sitting there, and I guess they're going to either knock it down. There was talk of putting a high-speed rail station up there. Anyway, long story short, I'll get there, I promise. I saw on Facebook yesterday they're auctioning off like everything in the building. I mean, all the way down to like the bathroom stalls. Really? Yeah, and so like I was going, and it's like 20 pages. There's like 1,700 items on this online auction that they're getting rid of, and you're going through, and a lot of it's just junk. Right. I really want to reach out to some like prop masters or art directors for films and stuff because there's like a lot of old computers and tech that could be used in like period, stuff. Period film and TV. Yeah, I mean, it's like really. There was one thing that I wanted, and I was looking for it. The basement was designated as a fallout shelter. So that's how old this building was. It was like Cold War, 60s Cuban Missile Crisis kind of thing. Like they had a fallout shelter in the basement. And there was a sign above the stairwell that said fallout shelter. Yep. And I was always like, I want that sign so bad, It wasn't listed, unfortunately.
Well, I don't think they can sell that because I think that has to like stay prevalent still. Like there's buildings at the university here in Cedar Falls that has like fallout shelter. I don't know. I'm guessing that just has to stay with the building. Like,
well, if they reuse the building for something, I guess that would make sense. But I didn't know if they were doing that or knocking it down.
I know what to get you for Christmas now.
I will find this fallout shelter. But where I'm going with this is a very roundabout way of getting to my point.
What we were originally talking about.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of personal space heaters that people had left behind were there. Like the kind you put under your desk because it's too cold.
Yeah.
And first of all, it's just funny that people left those sitting there.
Yeah.
But I had one myself, and so did many other people, because they kept that place so freaking cold all the time. Like so cold you couldn't feel the keyboard with your hands. And I was wearing a jacket sitting at my desk.
Yeah.
And I was always like, that is so stupid.
Right.
Because first of all, it's 100 degrees outside. so they blast the AC as high as they possibly can. And then you have to bring in a heater. So they're already wasting so much energy pumping all this cold air, and then you have to burn even more energy to heat yourself up.
How is that legal? Like, at some point,
it was a really old building.
But it doesn't matter how old the building is. The fact that they were cranking the AC so much. Was it room by room? Like, is it some rooms were just unbelievably cold and the other rooms were?
There was a little bit of that, yeah. Some people were colder than others, but I think it was just that they had never updated they probably couldn't afford to like update the AC system to make it more efficient and make sense, which is probably one of the reasons why they moved out of that building anyway, because it was just old stuff like that. Right. Like their security system, it literally looked like the first computer ever made. It was insane. It was like the monochrome green screen kind of thing from the 80s. But anyway, no, I mean it was things like that just struck me, like how wasteful like some of our practices are or whatever. Like there's so many opportunities for saving energy, and anyway, that was a very off topic kind of thing, but it was fresh in my mind and it was interesting to me.
That's insane to me. Like that's the stuff that'd be probably really easy for us to try to address, like as a culture. Is like, hey, maybe just don't waste a bunch of energy on nothing, like on fighting your own internal air battles, like maybe just like, let's figure that out. And then I don't know.
Well, and so when Elon was on Joe Rogan, there was sort of a hint that they might be taking some of their AC technology from the Model 3 and maybe doing some residential or commercial work with that, some kind of innovation there in air conditioning technology. I don't remember specifically how he worded it, but he kind of teased it a little bit. Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see, whether it's Tesla or anybody, somebody like really innovate in that space. Right. I think that would be really
just
cool.
To be smarter and wiser and make more efficient use of the energy and stuff like that.
This is coming from somebody who knows absolutely nothing about HVAC systems, just so you know.
Well, I mean, even like geothermal, I don't know if you know how that basically works. Like, you literally run pipes down below your house, only a little bit. Like, you don't have to go very deep, and you just run water through those pipes. And because like only a little bit below, like the ground temperature just kind of stays a lot more moderate. So it just works out great that it, in the winter, like it's significantly warmer down there than it is like in the air. So you can warm up, a coil or whatever. And then the opposite is true. Like in the summer, it stays cooler than the air, so it's like whoop, whoop, and just like a super efficient use of energy. So I look forward. I also look forward to more technology being used like that. It's just like like a total win-win. Right. Yeah. I think we're gonna be keeping it a little shorter today since we don't have Mr. Solins. Yeah.
And I have a thing to get to. My wife's probably going to come home any minute now, and the dogs are going to flip out. But
well, you're going to the state fair, are you not?
Yeah, I guess by the time people see this, I'll have already been there. But yeah, the Texas State Fair. I got to get a turkey leg.
You got to get yourself that turkey leg.
I like turkey legs so much, I don't even say turkey leg. I say turkey leg. I don't know what that means.
No, I don't either.
No, it's a thing we do every year. We try to go. It's I think this is the last weekend for it. So
yeah.
We may try to go tonight. It's beautiful weather, so it's a good day to do it.
Lucky. It's like terribly, terribly cold and windy and sad and scary here.
I'm sorry. Can I tease one more thing just real quick?
Yeah.
I know this means nothing to you, apparently.
Oh, no. Okay. I know what you're talking about.
But to all the normal people out there who are fans of the movie Galaxy Quest, I'm excited about this.
I don't even know.
Galaxy Quest is just like they say it's the best Star Trek movie ever made. And
See, I didn't even know it was a Star Trek movie.
So this was on space.com. This is where I first heard about it. There's a documentary about it. This is now a 20-year-old movie, which blows my mind. But there's a documentary called Never Surrender, a Galaxy Quest documentary, and it's actually by the Screen Junkies people, who have a great website. But no, it's actually here.
Wait, was that Tim Allen?
Tim Allen's in the movie.
What?
Yeah. But here's Brent Spiner. Is it Spiner or Spinner? It's Spiner, right?
I don't know. Still don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even have context for any of this. That's a guy. For those of you watching or listening.
Oh, good Lord, Tim. He played Data on Star Trek The Next Generation.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this little trailer starts with him talking about Galaxy Quest.
Okay. I can't actually hear it. So,
you can't hear it.
No.
Yeah, I forgot. I don't have that thing.
So let me do a
He's basically
voiceover.
saying, why didn't we do this?
I was Data. Now I'm not Data. That's what he was saying. You're welcome.
I wiped the stuff off my face, and now I'm not Data. So
what's the big deal?
Let me break down Galaxy Quest just really quickly for you. Okay?
Yeah. Tell me why this matters.
Okay. So Galaxy Quest... Why is this making noise?
I don't hear it. Oh, it's that.
Oh, my God. I got ads running. What is wrong with the ads? Forget it. I'm going to turn this off. Okay. Anyway, this is why I don't share my screen. So Galaxy Quest, the movie. In the movie, there is a TV show, a Star Trek style TV show called Galaxy Quest. So when you first watch a movie, the first scene is like the TV show, and it's kind of cheesy and campy. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got like a stage makeup on and stuff like that. So it was a TV show. Tim Allen played basically the William Shatner character. He was the commander, and Sigourney Weaver's in it. She plays basically the person that talks to the computer.
Okay, I remember this.
But basically what happens is some aliens pick up the signal and find these Galaxy Quest episodes, but they don't know that it's not real. They think it's real. They call them the historical documents.
Okay.
And they get into trouble with this guy named Saris, who's like this big alien bad guy, reptile-looking guy. And they basically, not kidnap, but they basically coerce Tim Allen's character to go to their ship and negotiate with this guy. Long story short, it's these actors who played these parts that now have to play the real thing. They have to do it in real life. And it's a funny movie. It's one of the best takes on like fan culture, because there's scenes at like fan conventions and stuff like that. And there's something just really heartfelt about these guys who like kind of got saddled in these roles, and like now they're just kind of like going to these conventions and signing posters, and that's what their life has become. And now they get to actually like do the roles for real.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's a fantastic movie.
Okay.
And I was super excited to hear there's a documentary coming about it. So
that's what the news is, that there's a documentary about one of your favorite movies coming out.
I'm just sharing it with all the people out there.
I'm just clarifying that that's what your news was. Is that your news?
That's the news.
That's awesome. Great.
That's news.
Okay. I'm just curious. I wasn't trying to be too snarky. I'm just like,
Man,
I didn't know where I had no idea where this is going.
Today.
No, because but I'm Andrew, you're yanging. No, but here's why I said it's just because earlier, like you were kind of mumbling while I was like trying to pull stuff up, and you said something about Galaxy Quest, and I was like, So I just didn't know the context, even where this was going. I thought I had no idea. So finally, when you're like,
okay.
there's a documentary about it, I was like, is that is that why this all came up?
Clearly, I'm kind of on a weird tangent, going and hitting topics from weird directions today, so I apologize. But it's a movie I'm a big fan of, and I think probably a lot of people who follow the kind of stuff that we're into are into sci-fi films and space films and stuff. I think I don't know. I'm just sharing it.
No, that's
I'm
great.
excited.
That's
I'm
great. Have you seen Troll 2?
Yeah.
Or the best worst
the best worst movie?
Yes. Yep. And that documentary. I actually just watched that randomly, like the other night to fall asleep. I was like,
what's the line that guy says?
You don't piss on hospitality.
I won't allow it.
I love it. That's like his new thing. And, there's a tangent. There's a tangent that has nothing to do with anything officially.
Well, it's October. Halloween's coming up. Cheesy horror movie.
Excuse me, cheesy or brilliant?
That's a good question.
Definitely not brilliant at all.
Campy.
So, what are you working on? Speaking of documentaries.
So I'm kind of stepping on your territory this month. Somehow, like all of my Monday videos are space themed. But no, I basically, when they did the well, you were there for the Starship update. I just started thinking about like how the ship has changed over the years. So Monday's video is just basically the evolution of Starship from 2016 when they first announced it to where it is today. And why they made the decisions that they did, and kind of exploring it like that.
Yeah, there's some fun changes we've seen, and it's fun. It's really fun thing to watch them like evolve that as they kind of like hammer in on it more. Well,
I'm gonna put a poll up asking people what their favorite version of the Starship was. What would yours be?
Mine would be current one.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think I would have said that last time, believe it or not. I think before that I liked the first, not the very first, not ITS, but like BFR 2017. I liked that a lot. It was the first time it kind of looked like a little more like
with that Delta.
Yeah, kind of the Delta wing. Yep, the Delta wing on the back. And this is the next time that I'm like, because to me this 2019 is basically 2018 and 2017 put together. Like you have the Delta wing kind of like just the two, but now they articulate. And it's just, you could just tell it's physics driven, you know? But I think I like this one the best. I think it looks like if you look at old school, like Air Force fighter jets, you know, it just kind of has that feel to it a little bit. It just looks cool.
Is it me or is it starting to look more like a space plane?
It kind of is.
A little bit. I mean, not in a bad way necessarily, just...
I think it's just physics just has to drive it that way. That's why the Buran space shuttle and the United States space shuttle looked pretty much identical, because when physics comes down to it, like that's the form that comes out, you know?
Yeah.
Just kind of how it happens. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so that's what I'm working on. I think you have a pretty big video that's finally about to come out, yeah?
Finally. It's done.
No, is it there?
It's not up right now, but by the time this comes out, I think it'll be out. So finally, the Aerospike video. I had the final cut, the quote unquote final cut, but like the full cut, I guess, done and out for my patrons this week, and we were catching errors all week basically. Still, I mean that's part of the, like, I've been working on this for 3 months now basically. Like I'm not gonna just be like, I'm done, copy paste go. Like I want to catch these errors, you know. Like
it has to go out right now.
Well, one of the things, for instance, you know, we had some of the numbers up on screen of like the Raptor engine, and we got those numbers a month ago or 2 months ago, or whenever we were doing some of the scripting stuff. And of course, since then, the Raptor actually changed at the update 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I forgot about that. So I actually had the wrong like read and wrong numbers up on screen, and they've already changed. So I had to fix that, you know. So there's just little things like that I had to fix. But all in all, it's finally ready. I'm gonna take a big, fat, deep breath when it's actually posted.
Maybe. How long did it come out to be?
1 hour, 1 minute.
You crossed the hour.
I crossed the hour. I am so nervous. But I'm really happy with it though. It explains a lot of things that I just did not know about before. You know, that it just didn't have a good way to understand it, you know? I had always heard people say things like, they just have a hard time cooling themselves. It's like, why? What do you mean it's hard time? Like, just cool it, you know? So like show like the math and the diagrams and the actual, like all the stuff of why it is difficult to cool it. Yeah, it's going to be good. I'm excited. So
yeah, I'm excited to see it.
And then I'm going to try to squeeze one more out before I leave for Europe on Tuesday for about 10 days or so. 10 days.
What you doing out there?
Little time off. With my friend and I are going to go shoot pictures. His name's Neil, and we've gone to Europe before together, like a couple years, 4 years ago or so. And he's another photographer. We'll just go take some pictures, but then we're also going to shoot a little video while we're over there too at the end of it. Nice. Of course, I can't totally get away from work, you know. But I figure after this, I was like, actually, I bought the tickets randomly for $350 round trip to Europe. So yeah, so we jumped on these tickets like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago or something on a total whim. So now it's that time, I guess, and it is timing out well with the end of the thing. So it's like, yay. Yeah,
cool.
So I'll have to probably pre-record something because I'll be very gone next week, but hopefully Ben's back.
It'll be me and Ben and Theo.
Perfect. Maybe if I can't find someone to interview or something, maybe I'll just have someone fill my shoes.
Can you clean your shoes first?
You. Yes.
I've seen how you wear your shoes.
Yes. Well, is that it?
Yeah.
All right.
Good talking to you as always.
Yeah, you too, Joe.
Thanks everybody for listening and chime in the comments and tell us all the things that we got wrong in our little train of thought here.
Yep, absolutely. And thanks for those listening in our Discord channel. We love you guys. If you want to listen to our shows,
we don't. Sorry, you do your thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you want to listen in live, I'll record it and try to catch some errors and like join as part of the conversation too. You can go to patreon.com/OurLudicrousFuture. Where you can join our Discord channel and have some other fun perks and help us continue to do what we do. Yeah.
Word.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, well, I guess we'll see you next week in our ludicrous future. Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you like what we do and you want to kind of help get it out there, you can give us a nice review on any of your podcast streaming platforms, whichever one you use. That kind of helps get it out there. Also, we do have a Patreon set up, so you can join us there at patreon.com/OurLudicrousFuture. You can get your name in the credits, meet a whole other group of like-minded people. It's a lot of fun. We do appreciate it. We'll see you there. Thanks.